Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, and a welcome to you. It's April 13, 2023, and I was talking the other day about an example of what really good journalism is, in this case, actually local television journalism, and instances of really good local television journalism are unfortunately very few and far between. But today I want to start with another indicator of the importance of really good journalism, and so that we don't get ourselves into the cynical posture that nobody's doing the work that needs to be done. It ain't all fake news. And the dogged intelligence of some journalists is really all that keeps us from devolving even more so into an authoritarian regime run by power-mad folk intent on keeping the rest of the sheep as docile and stupid as possible. I'm talking about a piece in the Washington Post today. I'm assuming some of you have already seen it. It's mind-blowing in that this has to do with the leaks, all these leaks that have upended American intelligence operations, the leaks that showed up on some gaming site on the internet and are still being found, ones that have probably and apparently have forced Ukraine to change military plans. It has put a bit of an uncomfortable wrinkle in our relationships with other countries, including our allies. It's the kind of leak that is, if you ask anyone in the intelligence community, extremely damaging to our national security. And everything I've been seeing about it has said that the number of people that have access to these documents that have been leaked is huge. I mean, it's just huge, the number of people. So you start to think, well, then maybe they'll never find the person. Well, it appears that a Wall Street Journal reporter has found the person. That's the exclusive story here. He works on a U.S. military base, according to the story. A minor, someone under the age of 18, who spilled his guts to the Washington Post about this guy who he reveres, has told them practically everything. And I guess what I'm reading it and I'm thinking, whoa, wait. The Pentagon, the State Department, all the national security and intelligence agencies have been running around trying to figure out where this stuff came from. The Pentagon, with a budget of almost $1 trillion, and some reporter for the Washington Post outruns them all. I mean, assuming that now the intelligence agencies have read the Washington Post piece, even with the Washington Post piece, I think I could find the guy. Now, if this piece holds up, I mean, it's masterful. And it also is a good read. So it's a young guy in his 20s, it sounds like, I think, who during the pandemic, isolated like the rest of us, got together online with a group, and I'll quote here from the Post, a group comprised of young men with a mutual love of guns, military gear, and God. There you got it. And these roughly 24, it says mostly men and boys, maybe there was a woman in there somewhere, formed an invitation-only clubhouse in 2020 on Discord, which is an online platform popular with people who play video games. And one of the members was a guy who called himself OG, and that's the leaker, according to the Washington Post. And he quickly positioned himself as the alpha male of the group. He was, according to this minor who spilled his guts to the Post, the power of the group. And it was known he had a job on a military base. He was inside a secure facility. And yet, he was, what he was able to do. Here's what this kid, it just says he's under 18. It says here, the members swapped memes, offensive jokes, and idle chit-chat. They watched movies together, joked around, and prayed. But OG always lectured them about world affairs and secretive government operations. And then the kid says, he's a smart person. He knew what he was doing. These weren't accidental leaks. And this kid has got to be already. So the Washington Post actually spoke to this guy, videotaped this guy, did several lengthy interviews with him. He's under 18, and obviously he was even more under 18 when he joined in this online group. It says in the article that the Washington Post reporters obtained consent from his mother to speak to him and record his remarks on video. And then they were able to corroborate what he said with other interviews with a second member of the group. And both of those people say they know OG's real name, but they won't divulge it. They know what state he's in. They know this stuff, but they say they're not going, I got news for you. They're going to give up the information because if the FBI isn't already at their door, I don't know what's going on. Here's some more of what the kid said. I mean, this world of odd, strange, gun-loving, supposedly God-fearing white men in this country. God. Here's what he says about him. He's fit. He's strong. He's armed. He's trained. And the reporters from the Post saw a video in which the guy, the leaker, stands at a shooting range wearing safety glasses and ear coverings and holding a large rifle. He yells a series of racial and anti-Semitic slurs into the camera, then fires several rounds at a target. These young guys in the group were drawn to his bravado and his skill and his masculinity. They saw him as a father figure. Oh, dear God. We were like a tight-knit family, the kid says. We depended on each other. OG counseled him during bouts of depression, helped steady him. There was no lack of love, this kid says. And this is the guy this is the character who upended years and years of work by U.S. national security, spy agencies. It says that at some point he started actually just taking pictures of the documents, and in the pictures he took, there are defining, in the periphery of the pictures, you see certain things, furniture in a room, you see, identifiable objects, which absolutely will allow identification of where he is. So, I mean, if this guy is not caught by tonight, he apparently knows he's in big trouble, obviously, and he's, I suspect, already in hiding. But shortly after the New York Times first reported on the leak, OG came into the server, into his clubhouse, frantic, according to the kid, which is unusual for him. He said something happened, and he prayed to God that this event would not happen, but now it's in God's hands. So this guy was doing this not as a whistleblower, not to, he was simply trying to show off to these young kids who he'd never personally met, I suspect, to show them what a bigwig he was, right? That's all he was doing. But the report goes on to say, remarkably, the member, the kid who's talking, said he has been in touch with OG in the past few days, even as an FBI manhunt is underway, and the Pentagon has launched its own inquiry. The member said he seemed very confused and lost as to what to do. He's fully aware of what's happening and what the consequences may be. He's just not sure on how to go about solving this situation. He seems pretty distraught. Well, and so there. If this piece holds, I mean, I guess the thing that's most unsettling to me is how, and the reporter, by the way, is Shane Harris, who his beat is intelligence and national security. Now, how does a reporter get this close to this guy that the entire U.S. government is gunning for? And well ahead of them. This guy has Pulitzer Prizes in his background. He has George Polk Awards, which are, believe me, evidence of his journalistic skills. Unbelievable. And what's more embarrassing to the government, to our well-heeled government, what's more embarrassing? The leak, the lack of security, the obvious handing out of access to top secret information to people who shouldn't be anywhere near it? Is that more embarrassing? Or the fact that they got totally humiliated by a newspaper reporter? Oh my God. I'm just, it's one of those stories that you read, and I do suggest you read it. One of those stories you read, and while you're reading it, you can hardly believe what you're reading. And the sort of infantile nature of these boys and men, and the damage they can do. It actually makes somebody like, Snowden and what's his name, appear much more noble. I mean, Snowden actually, he had access, but he thought he was doing a whistleblower thing. The people should know. Not that it was his call to make, but yes, but that's what a whistleblower does. And they knowingly put themselves at risk. This guy is just showing off. This racist, anti-Semite, homophobe, God-fearing, gun-loving American. Incredible. Incredible. Boy. Okay. One of the things that I have found out in the last, 24 hours is something so astonishing to me that, again, it's like, you read it and you think, this can't be true. Have we lost all capacity for reason? And what I'm talking about is the news, and I heard this in a report quoting the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky, the most recent scene of a mass murder that garnered our attention. So many don't. And it turns out that the weapon, the weapon that killed these people and grievously maimed others, by state law, which is mind-blowing, will have to be sent to the custody of the state police of Kentucky. And the state police of Kentucky, will turn around and auction it off Is that even possible? A weapon of mass destruction that has lived up to its name will, by Kentucky law, not be destroyed, will be sent to the state police, who will then use it to raise money by auctioning it off. I can't even, you're living in dystopian times when you're struggling to sort of keep track of what's real and what's not. And the reason you struggle is because what is real is unreal. All those words we've been using a lot, like unprecedented. What is with this country and its inability to come to terms with the insanity that infects us? My only hope, and it's a strong one, is that this kind of stuff, as the overreach of these would-be authoritarians and fascists, their overreach, which is, and because of what happened in Tennessee with the expulsion of those two young black legislators, the fact that we're starting to see the abortion thing, that the incredible cruelty and insanity of the right-wing lunatics who have taken over one of the two political parties in this country. And they do not represent the majority. And I do think that if they, I don't think they're capable of, they're zealots, they're crazed. I don't think they're capable of moderating their stance. So my hope is that more and more Americans just see with their own eyes what these people represent and how they view their jobs as public servants. And it's hardly as a public servant. It's like a power-mad, my way or the highway autocrat. I think most Americans, truly, most Americans will feel revulsion. That is my hope. I mean, what do the Republicans have to offer? What are they going to run? They're going to run against drag queens? That's God knows. I know most of it. I was at I had to go to someone's birthday party, and I saw people I haven't seen in ages, and everywhere I turned, everyone is talking about this same stuff. Everyone's shaking their heads and saying things like, I mean, what is going? I can't believe. Some guy who I hadn't seen in years just walked up to me and looked at me and he said, "We are fucked." And, it wasn't like I had to say, "What are you talking about?" I think Americans, and I don't think of that guy as a particularly political person. Most Americans see pretty clearly now what is going on, I think. I hope. And I want to say this about Joe Biden, who is going to run, and he will have my full-throated support. The only true negative that I clearly see is his age. But I think he has handled this presidency in these unprecedented times extremely well. And I think if he runs and he runs against Donald Trump, I don't think there's any doubt that he will be reelected. Now, you can call me naive, but I do think that. And with that be careful of what you wish for thing in the back of my head, which I'm always saying to people, anybody who always says it can't get any worse. It's not what my life has shown me. It always can get worse. But I really hope that the Republicans nominate Donald Trump. Now, I know the danger is that we thought, what a joke that he could get elected the first time. I know now, obviously, that's wrong. But I think we see things pretty clearly now. And again, as I said, I think most Americans do not contrast America under Biden as opposed to America under Trump. And I think, without a doubt, the majority of Americans will say, I sort of vaguely remember enjoying sleeping at night. So I'm voting for Biden, the old fart. I mean, another thing that his administration did, which is, whoa. I mean, this is like way more than anybody. This thing where his EPA, they've essentially told the automakers, an entire huge industry, to change everything they're doing. I don't care what you thought you were doing. Here's what you're going to do, because the EPA has come out with these proposed new rules that would create an absolute revolution in the auto industry. That's not something like an old moderate fart of a president does. If the rules from the EPA are in fact enacted as they are proposed, they will put the United States, which still is the world's largest economy, actually on track to slash our climate destroying, planet warming emissions at the pace that scientists say is necessary if we are going to avert the most devastating impacts of what we have thus far wrought. Now, we can't do it alone, but if we do this, that puts, every other nation has to essentially do the same. But because of our economic power, we've got the ability to do this. I mean, automakers, I'm sure, their heads are spinning. But this could be done. You think of how automakers turned on a dime when we got into World War II, right? It can be done. I know as a consumer that the next car I buy will be electric. I'd be nuts not to have it be electric. I've just been dragging my heels waiting for the infrastructure to get built. And I think Biden and his EPA they're moving in the right direction. How do you not credit that? And then you look at the kinds of things Republicans do with their power. You're looking at the latest thing DeSantis has done. He has this just unbelievably ugly immigration bill that targets immigrant communities, just targets them. It would require hospitals to collect the immigration status of any poor soul who goes to them for help. You imagine? Do you think if your documents aren't quite right, you're fearful of being deported, what would you do? Would you just go crawl off somewhere and die? Or do you go to the hospital, which is like turning yourself into the police? This bill goes so far as to take legal DACA, the DREAM Act, younger people from going to law school, from getting law licenses. And then there's something about trafficking in immigrants. I was telling you about a law in Idaho, about abortion trafficking, how you can go to jail if you take a pregnant minor in your car to access an abortion. You are going to jail. You are abortion trafficking. And his bill says that a person who knowingly transports within this state an individual whom the person knows has entered or reasonably should know. I guess that's where racial profiling kicks in. Didn't you see the color of his skin and the fact that he didn't speak English real well? So if you reasonably should have known, but you give the guy a ride in Florida, you can be charged with a felony under this law. If you welcome them into your home, if you reasonably should know, and you have given them any hospitality, you reasonably should know, you're going to jail. And the thing is, this could bleed through, as one the person said, an immigration attorney in Florida said, this bill is so insidious because of that vague, reasonably should know standard for criminalizing anyone who shelters or transports anyone whose papers aren't quite in order, that lawyers might be uncomfortable taking cases because would they be aiding and abetting? What about churches, Hispanic churches? So someone comes to the pastor asking for help. Then what? Here's what we do know. The chilling effect this will have on giving any aid to an undocumented human being. Well, it's obvious. And that's the kind of stuff. Drag queens and desperate people seeking refuge Wow. That is the enemy to the God-fearing, gun-toting, gun-loving Americans who vote Republican. Milt writes, well, I agree with everything you stated concerning Biden's bid for a second term. One question comes to mind. Is Kamala Harris a benefit or a handicap heading into the 2024 election? Would replacing her help or hurt his chances? Considering his advanced age, the vice presidential choice becomes more important than possibly any election in my lifetime. Yeah, I hear you. But for Biden to win, he needs Black Americans to come out. And kicking Kamala Harris off the ticket is a surefire way to depress that vote. Look, she has not impressed a lot of us. Some of that is what she's been charged with, the things she's been given to do. But it's not like she's some blithering idiot. So if Biden should die in his second term and Harris were to become the president, do you think she is less capable than, need I start naming names? So while I wouldn't, she wasn't my pick, back when they picked her. But I think kicking her off the ticket would rile up, even if she's replaced by, it would rile up women, it would rile up blacks. And even if you replace her with another Black woman, that looks, or another woman, but not a black, or a black, but not a, I don't know. I think you got to keep your ticket in place. It won once, and it can win again. That's my sense. Not that that's just what I'm thinking. Oh, God. So, I have something here in front of me that will get my dander up, and as if it isn't. I got two things here in front of me that'll get my dander up. Which one should I do first? Let's start with the one I've done I've done both of these a million times before. But this is just the latest in this, the trigger warning crapola at colleges. The latest chapter happened at Cornell University, where the student council or something proposed unanimously a proposal that suggested that trigger warnings must be used by instructors. They must provide warnings. Let me find the things what they have to warn for. It's just it's the list one would expect about traumatic content. Including sexual assault, self-harm, transphobic violence, and that's just getting started. Xenophobia, child abuse, suicide, self-harm, domestic violence, homophobic harassment. I guess what sets this one apart is that then had to go to the president of the university to be signed off on. And normally when the students send the president, sits there for a while. The president, it didn't sit there for more than a blink of an eye. And the president said, no, not happening. She said, we cannot accept this as the actions it recommends would infringe on our core commitment to academic freedom and freedom of inquiry and are at odds with the goals of a Cornell education. And for a university administration, it was a quick no, which I found heartening. So maybe these administrators are starting to, I was going to say, grow a few balls. The person in this case doesn't have them. It's President Martha Pollock, and the thing is, the article I'm reading that says that 70% of college students report they have been exposed to at least one traumatic event. Okay, I believe that. You're 18 years old, minimally, right? You've been alive for 18 years, and yeah, within 18 years, the odds of you having experienced a traumatic event would be, pretty damn high. You know why? It's called being alive. What the hell? It's called being alive. And all trigger warnings do, if you think that's the answer to it, it infantilizes these young people who are supposed to be becoming adults. It reduces them to the sum of their traumatic experience. That is not what educators should be focusing on. We're really sorry you're a human being alive in this horrifying world. And yes, trauma is part of being alive. Some of you will have more of it and more severe trauma than others, but trauma you cannot be warned away from. One professor is quoted as saying, you know, life happens to you while you're driving, while you're walking, while you're in the supermarket. The most challenging moments in life rarely come with a warning. How do you prepare young people for life if you infantilize them like this? And again, as I said, make them the sum total of all of their fears and phobias and traumas. Jeez. You know, I don't know. We are such a soft people, and I include myself. We are so soft. And it seems to me that the times we're living in require us to toughen up. That's all I'm saying. All right, the other really incredible thing, there is a group called the Lown Institute. It's a nonprofit. And it's founded by a man I have told you about, who Bernard Lown. He was the inventor of the defibrillator. He was a Harvard professor, an author, and actually a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. He went and collected it along with a Russian scientist, both of whom were part of an organization working scientists against, nuclear proliferation. I forget the exact name. I met this man. He had very close friends here in Pittsburgh. And he was on my show, my radio show back on WTAE. And of all the interviews I've done, that was one of the most memorable. So he did so much good in this world. He died just, I think, last year. I think he was 100 years old. God bless him. He saved more lives in his life. He was an immigrant and a Jew. Two of the things Republicans aren't so sure about anymore. Just the defibrillator alone, look what he saved. But then his work, again, well, I won't get into him because that's not the story. The story is local here. His institute does rankings of hospitals. Guess what? UPMC, #1 on a list you don't want to be #1 on. #1. So the Lown Institute's Hospital Index, what it does is it ranks how much charity these so-called charitable nonprofit institutions like UPMC actually do compared to the tax breaks they get for supposedly doing it, right? They are tax exempt because they're charitable. So the Lown Institute looks at hospitals all over the country. They looked at more than almost 2,000 nonprofit hospitals nationwide. And guess what? UPMC receives $250 million more in tax breaks than it spends on charity and community investment. And they go into how they calculate this. They use the numbers supplied by the hospitals on their IRS forms. And the Lown Institute goes on to say that the amount of money, that deficit between what their tax break is as opposed to what their charitable giving is, that difference, that huge difference, could have helped cover the losses of 248 rural hospitals, which are going belly up all over this nation. It could have cleared the medical debt of over 167,000 people. Incredible. Congressperson Lee, Summer Lee, whose district, as you know, incorporates UPMC, said this: the people of Western Pennsylvania work hard for their paychecks. They pay their fair share in taxes. And greedy hospital monopolies like UPMC should too. We already knew they were ripping us off, exploiting our hospital workers to the point of a staffing crisis that put our loved ones' lives at risk and leaving our most marginalized communities behind without access to care. Guess what? This will not surprise you. UPMC could not immediately be reached for comment. UPMC was not the only Pennsylvania hospital included on the list. The hospital at the University of Pennsylvania was also on it. They received an estimated $151 million more in tax breaks than it spent on charity and community investment. Lee went on to say the fact that we now know that UPMC is cheating us out of $246 million on the backs of taxpayers, enough to erase the medical debt for 167,000 Pennsylvanians, is shameful beyond reprieve. Instead of promoting the health of our families, they only care about promoting their profitability. And she is absolutely right. When the hell? And I got to tell you, I know a lot of you give to children's hospital and stuff. I have never given a penny to them. My son's was treated there when he was a kid a number of times. Why would I give them money? I already give them money through my taxes. My taxes provide them fire trucks when they need them and all kinds of other stuff, infrastructure. Why the hell this hugely profitable beast should go around begging? It's not supposed to ask for charity. It's supposed to provide it. Despicable. Oh, boy. Okay. So let's now move. Let's go someplace that is that doesn't raise my blood pressure as much. Okay. Let's find a way to end on a happier note. Okay. Good for that. This is a science little piece. Did you see that some anthropologists have found human hair in a burial cave in Spain? And quite a bit of it. Hanks of hair. And this is hair from people who lived in the Bronze Age, which is a heck of a long time ago. That would be what? I think it's about 3,000. I mean, it's well before Christ. It's, I would say, 3,000 years or a little more. And the Bronze Age is when the wheel got invented. The Bronze Age is when people started writing systems like cuneiform. When they started seriously making tools from metal, and one of the reasons it's called the Bronze Age. So it was a time when humans were starting to make some seriously important inventions. And so hair from the people who lived at that time, now, as we know, we can do chemical analyses of hair. And that's what these guys did. And they found in the hair, the thing is there was, as I said, more than one person. The cave, in it, they found the remains of more than 200 people who had been buried in this cave over a span of 600 years. With, they think the last burial there being around 800 BC. And these, there were boxes in which the remains were found. And the people had dyed red hair. So even then, humans are adorning it. No, I'm not sure I want to be blonde. I think I'll go with red. Red seems to be what we're all doing. And so there were these hanks of hair, red dyed hair in all these boxes. They did the chemical analysis, and what they found was that these folks really liked psychedelics. They were tripping. They were tripping. There was evidence of 3 alkaloid substances known to produce altered states of consciousness: ephedrine, atropine, and scopolamine. And they all come from natural occurring. They all come from, the flora of the world. And some of them, obviously, some from the nightshade family, which is well known. And the fact is that so people, they found this out. I had once read this fascinating thing also by an anthropologist about how one of the ways humans discovered which plants, could give them a little vacation from their own troubles was by watching animals. And they'd watch animals go after this mind-altering stuff and look happy as holy hell. Or just, So this idea that wanting to get high is somehow like something untoward, it is clearly something that humans and animals have been seeking forever. Because, as we were talking earlier about trigger warnings, life can be traumatic. And a bit of respite coming from some substance, it seems like a perfectly reasonable choice. And the boxes that the dyed red hair were found in also had patterns that had been carved into the sides, like concentric circles, or they look, according to the anthropologist, like the kind of visions that you saw, in the psychedelic kinds of art that we saw in the 60s. It looked like that. So their art was informed by the visions of the drugs that they took. Now, what we don't know is, were they taking this stuff just to have a good time, or did they incorporate it into religious ceremonies? So I don't know that that'll ever be known, but we certainly do know of other cultures doing either or both. I mean, think about unbelievable. Anyway, there's something called an ethnobotanist, who's specializing in the archaeology of psychoactive plants. And this one guy who's a leading expert in Italy said he was just exhilarated by this finding, because he said, wow, this adds to this growing body of evidence suggesting that hallucinogenics were an integral part of ancient societies throughout the world. And you know what? Still are. Must be a very human thing. The 3 compounds that were found in this hair, some of them do slightly different things. Ephedrine is a stimulant, that is like sort of a what am I blanking? Is why am I blanking? That it gives you a spurts of energy and mental clarity, and like an amphetamine. That's what I was looking for, like an amphetamine. And also, it could be used to keep you awake, right? That's what amphetamines are still used for. Ask college kids. I don't know, are they still doing it? Because back when I was in college, man, you had amphetamines to get you through all-nighters, right? So they might have been doing that. And then atropine and scopolamine are what are called deliriants. I love it. And that's the more party thing. That's provides you with hallucination and out-of-body experiences. And as someone who has done that kind of thing, who took LSD, I can say that, yeah, that's a pretty astonishing experience to have, to see where your brain can go with a little bit of chemical aid. So I'm just saying, I love that. I love it. Our great grandparents were tripping. Yes. All right. Well, wishing you all a good trip wherever you're going. That's it for this week, and I will talk to you again on Monday. I hope you'll be there. Have a good one. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.